So, Carl, you may not be aware of this, but I'm not that smart, and I just got an email this morning from the ATF uh, rejecting my Form One because I had spelled my own name incorrectly. So, yeah, I honestly, you guys, I don't know why you're listening to this. I'm a borderline mentally disabled man with a
I'm
microphone.
sure you did it like with a lot of attention and effort and didn't just go and move on to something else, right?
Uh, Even worse, Philip, I don't need your specific knowledge of what we're talking about. Uh, but even worse, I used one of those like little handy, like calculators, like it generates the form for you.
Oh yeah.
And at the end, it was like, "Are you sure this is your name? It doesn't look real." I was like, "Oh, what do you know, stupid form? I'm a red-blooded American man. I know what I want." Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of on me.
That's delightful. I love that.
What have you been up to, Carl?
Um I wrote a West Texas cowboy song about a local news article in which a diverse set of people were engaged in various shenanigans. But it includes a rather mild ethnic slur. So
Eh,
I don't know that I should sing it here, but
you know what? I'll trust your judgment on that. But here's we'll get up on one of my personal hobby horses. Uh, Hipsters are getting into country music and ruining it, and
oh
it drives me
no,
crazy.
oh no,
So I was driving back with my wife from visiting some family up kind of far in the north, New England, and we're driving through this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, Maine, right? Literal middle of nowhere. And we're at this kind of cool old hotel, the kind of straight across bangs Brooklyn types had bought it, turned it into a nice spot, right? So we're at the bar there, and we're sitting outside. It's summer. It's beautiful. And as we walked in, I see the kind of obligatory pride flag. The this was a little bit extra because right underneath it there was a like a
mm,
little receptacle like you'd pass around at church for Plan B. So very socially conscious. But the first song comes up, and it's "Song of the South" by Alabama. And they're just cycling through all this like 70s outlaw country, which I love. I grew up listening to.
yeah, yeah.
But there's a part of me that's just like, what? Do you guys not get it? Like when they're talking about New York, like who do you think they're talking
Who do
about?
you think they're talking about?
They're talking about you or your
Yes,
parents, I guess. But
yes.
also, it's like "Song of the South" is just a Southern nationalist anthem, right? Like, it's basically like you ever seen the album cover? You know, I just could not square that circle in my mind. Where I'm like, you guys really do not understand what you're listening to. And I just want to say, I've really flip flopped on cultural appropriation. My culture is not your costume. Heather, that's really your name, Fletcher.
Mm.
Uh, Point is, I find it insufferable. And you see it in the rise of this kind of like hicklib country music too.
Oh
Like
Lord.
the one that people always make fun of is that song some guy sang on TikTok, right? Grandpa was a liberal and he would have kicked your ass. See, we do safe edgy swearing too, of course. I'm like, I don't know, man. David Allen Coe said the N word a lot,
A lot.
like a lot.
Like almost as much as a rapper.
There's a certain crossover, like I don't entirely buy Thomas Sowell's thesis, but you look at David Allen Coe and you're like, okay, maybe there's some more crossover here than we'd initially realized.
That's one of the only times when I'll grant anything to that guy is when you're doing like outlaw country. Yeah, okay. I can kind of get it.
Like his bootleg record, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like whatever 24 songs. Is it David Allen Coe unrated or uncut? I can't remember. It's one of those.
Yeah, something like
Uh,
that.
you cannot play it in mixed company. I'll leave it at
No.
that.
No.
Uh, and I mean, you see that as well with like the deliberate kind of top down push to kind of mix like country music and hip hop, right? That's its kind of own conversation. But Yeah, the progs are taking our country music, and I'm really not having it, man.
Yeah, it's funny when you're in Texas and you're in like south, southwestern Texas, West Texas, whatever, and you go into a hipster place and they're playing music from that area, you're like, okay, I get it, right? Like, of course, and yes, the food's a little more precious and the menu's a little more precious, but like half the time the staff isn't from there, but the owner is, and so they're wearing a costume essentially, and it really irritates me until I just say, whatever, as long as I get to hear Alabama or something like that, right?
Well, it's one of those things that bothers me because, like, I noticed it first, obviously with Carhartt, right? And every time I wear this beanie, because it is freezing cold
Mm.
where I am, I always get people like, oh, hipster dressing up as a working man. I'm like, dude, I got this at a Tractor Supply for $20. Like, what do you want me to do here? It was a hat on a rack.
Yeah.
Uh, Somewhat similarly, the one I really noticed was Realtree. Like and it's kind of out now, but for a while that was kind of a daring thing to wear. Like, oh, see, I mixed the white trash aesthetic with my
uh
d
middle
designer
school
jeans.
middle school kids love Realtree. Like regular, just suburban kids love Realtree, and it has to be Realtree.
It's which is very very weird to me because like I had Realtree as a kid and I wore it in the woods to go hunting,
Yes.
and it was like the like not the cheapest, but it was basically like Walmart camo, right? Like it wasn't some high dollar thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you sort of see this cycle over and over again. Like a while back, it was like Champion, who makes like cheap, again, Walmart, like
Yeah.
sweatpants and stuff like that. But as someone who, as you can probably tell, Carl, does not spend an immense amount of time dressing himself or paying attention to fashion trends, I just find it completely and totally baffling, especially when it sort of reaches the things that were 20 years ago considered to be like a marker of being like a deeply out of touch social pariah who probably listened to Rush Limbaugh.
That's funny. No, it's true. And it's always in cycles. And my daughter, being female, is tied into the trends, like to the nth degree. And she's a very smart kid. She's very sharp. My son doesn't give a shit, but my daughter is tied into all these things, and I have to have these conversations with her on the regular and be like, "Do you know what that is? That means something, and you should be aware of what it means." And she's like, "Nobody knows, nobody cares. It's just cool." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, yeah, and that's a obviously it's a hard argument to make when you're 16, but that is a that's a very bad piece of logic.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's cool. I mean, such as being a teenager. Uh, Richard Sledge, 69, in chat. He's Norwooding. I can sense it. You were correct. I'm aggressively balding. I'll really be just a regular Tim Pool by the end of the year, and so that's what this beanie is for. So I just have to hide to cover up my shame, and you've sussed me out, Richard Sledge. Uh, did you see the Keltec news, Carl?
Those things are sick as hell, dude.
They kind of stole it, to be perfectly fair, right?
Yeah.
Like Stuff and Things does crazy
Yes.
stuff. Like
Yes.
they were the first guys who figured out how to make a PP-19 B-Zone clone.
Yeah.
And for those who did I get those numbers right?
PP. I'm just yeah. I'm just saying PP because it's funny.
In addition to being scarcely planned, these only the highest brow comedy.
Oh yeah,
here,
yeah.
Carl.
I mean,
But
after all, we're the kind of people that mess up a Form 1 by misspelling our own names, right?
yeah, not even my last name. It was my first one, which is way easier to spell. I've got nothing, Carl. I really have no defense. But basically, for those wondering, Keltec is a firearms manufacturer out of Florida, sort of infamous for making just crazy stuff. Right? The joke is always that their boardroom just has a little miniaturized train full of cocaine that kind of runs around. And they had this really bizarre handgun question mark that basically featured the 50 shot kind of weird helical merry-go-round magazine from a P90, which if you ever played a shooter game, you'll be familiar with. Stuck it on the bottom of a handgun, and I don't know, man, just made some kind of weird Keltec.
But there was like a
self-tapping
shell
screw.
around it. There was this like shell it opened up, and that was retarded.
As is often the case.
Yes.
And so an aftermarket manufacturer figured out a way to sort of make it make sense, right? Kind of reduce the shell and put most importantly, fire control droop from an AR-15, which allows force reset safeties. Basically, it gave access to totally not full auto, totally not a P90 for like $600. Sold really well. Keltec just basically stole it and made it worse. But yeah, man, I've got to give it to Keltec for continuing to make the most just baffling designs ever.
Yeah,
and you know what? At least they're trying.
Dude. It's sick as hell. I'm gonna get one, and I have a way though. Is the thing, despite the knowledge that you have, I have a way. So yeah, I'm definitely getting one of those things. Those are sick. Lil Uzi Jacuzzi. Yes, you should buy a PR-57. They're cool. They're actually really cool. They're novel. They're kind of retarded, but that's how you get a small grip is by using a stripper clip, or two stripper clips rather, to charge the weapon. But those things are actually super cool.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I appreciate Keltec for refusing to do anything the normal way. Uh, it's interesting, if nothing else. As far as other news, State of the Union, I didn't watch it. That guy whose gimmick is basically getting kicked out of the State of the Union, he showed back up, producing one of the funniest images of President Donald Trump ever, where it's him in profile, and behind him, I think his name is Al Green, I'm not entirely sure, is carrying a sign. Mm-hmm. This is a direct quote from an elected member of government. Black people are not apes. That is pretty funny. I will add no further commentary onto that. So that happened. Really, other than that, I don't know if there was anything super notable to come from it. Just kind of the normal political jockeying. Did you pay attention to anything particularly interesting, Karl?
I listened to much of it, and what I will say is, Donald Trump has this thing where when he's given the microphone, there comes a point where he's leaning on the podium and he's just like riffing. He's riffing on his own speech, and it just goes on way too long. But what I will say is that the libtards doubled down on the libtards doubled down on we don't care about Americans when essentially prompted to display otherwise, and it was really funny, and I don't know, the overall thing, like it's a circus, but at the same time, like, it's great. Seeing the leopard skin like adjacent to this man, like on his shoulder, is so appropriate.
Yeah, so it was pretty typical kind of circus stuff. As I said in an episode that shouldn't be available for free subscribers, it'll be out tomorrow, I wrote an article in Junto magazine. Is that how we're saying it, Karl? Have we gotten confirmation that's how we say it, I guess?
So, yeah.
So you guys can check that out. I saw editor-in-chief Philip on the X chat a while back, so you guys should check that out. Written with help from Karl Dahl, my copy editor, and confirmation constantly that I have no idea what I'm saying. Yeah, I wish you guys could see the back and forth between Karl and I over an article, because it is basically me saying, I wrote this, I hate it. And then Karl's extremely detailed notes on why I hate it so much. So
I would disagree. I would disagree with that characterization. I usually say it's actually good, but here's what you need to do. to make it particularly good because you're softening here, and you should just get that Fed post like line, like as get that arrow as close to the Fed posting line as possible. And yeah, that's my way of approaching these things. So
Well, I appreciate that. Obviously, I'll link to that in the description. You should read it and check it out. But Carl, I don't know if you caught this. There was a new kind of Twitter discourse going around not too long ago, talking specifically about homelessness, right? And I think I
yeah,
sent a link to this in the chat, but I'll just read it out. From kind of performative communist Cassie Pritchard. This is quite long. We'll go back and forth on this, Carl. So, quoting
isn't
from.
that a tranny?
Oh, I just thought she was unfortunate. I don't know. I just have a screenshot of this. I guess I could.
I saw a hint that maybe
Mm,
my assumption is correct, but it could have been someone being
well,
cheeky. But anyhow,
let's check here. Okay, sorry. We're doing some impromptu investigative work.
yes,
Wow, you guys talk so much in this group chat. I can't find anything.
checking the package, as it were, which is something you should do before you. Yes. Anyway,
I'm just gonna leave that one there. Yeah. Okay. So let me find this original thread. Uh, no, but she is a supporter of unionized Starbucks workers.
yeah,
So
okay,
you take what you will from that. All right. Anyway, back to I would say the point, but let's be honest, we don't exactly have an ironclad discipline here. Okay, Cassie Pritchard, February 22nd. I see we are once again doing, quote, mental illness can obviously make you kill yourself or drown your own baby or things of that nature, but it'll definitely can't make you say bad words that your vile and corrupt soul. That's your vile and corrupt soul
yeah,
discourse
yes,
again. So for context, for those who aren't aware, uh, they invited a Scottish guy with Tourette's to the BAFTA Awards, and in addition to other typically inappropriate outbursts, he made a comment about several diverse gentlemen accepting rewards.
Well, he
Of
was in a film, a film
yes,
about him, a documentary, like raising awareness of this condition, and his chief defender is a black man with an offensive English accent or Scottish accent, excuse me.
yes. So of course, the footage comes out of him screaming gamer words, and of course, we are plunged into the discourse. Uh, Rational adults could say, okay, maybe it wasn't the best idea to invite him there, but it's a guy with Tourette's. Like, it's kind of how it works. It's like bringing a pit bull into a kindergarten. Like, okay, yeah, it's still the dog's fault or the guy with, you know, Tourette's in a very narrow sense. But also, guys, come on, like, grow up. Either don't invite him or just kind of expect what's going to happen. So, of course, the usual suspects are losing their mind. One might draw a comparison to the remarks of Mr. Green here. But anyway, so that's the background context on this. Okay, post 2. I think technically Tourette's is a neurological disorder and not a mental illness, but whatever the last time we did it, it was about Kanye and bipolar disorder. The same logic is the same. Fundamentally, no one on earth actually believes that cognitive / mood / neurological / addictive disorders can compromise your willpower or determine your behavior. No one actually has sympathy for any disorder of the brain if it results in outcomes they don't like. Okay, that's just not true, Karl. It's
Correct.
fundamentally not true.
Correct.
You live around more homeless people than I do. So I will
Yes.
let you opine on this.
The long and the short of it is that the vast majority of the people who are faux reals, indigent homeless people, are junkies who have become mentally ill, or are making them, or are junkies because they're mentally ill. And these are not people who can make choices. The saddest thing I think I've ever seen was a friend of mine who worked for Union Gospel Mission. He essentially had a job that was charity, in that he was barely being paid for the amount of work that he was doing, but he did it as a good work for several years. And we were on a walk in a city infamous for homeless people lying all over the sidewalks and attacking normal people. And he said, let's watch this. And it was about 9 at night, and under this well-lit street, section of street in right in the edge of Smacktown, basically. And we saw all these like literally developmentally disabled women in their 40s and 50s come together as a group and lie down under this light so that the police could see them, to hopefully deter lunatics from raping them. And that is the argument of the homeless as well. They would need to choose to be in these programs. These are people who can't take care of themselves. These are insane people. These are people with delusions that you can't possibly understand. And some of them are the other side of the coin is that there's a strong street criminal element who are just scum of the earth, and they're on the street too because it allows them to just victimize people, and they get treated like one of these poor unfortunates who can't take care of themselves as well. So what is the proportion of those people? It's hard to say, but it's kind of a spectrum. But that's who these people are. There's also people that are just, useless and can't be held to any sort of standard, who are literally not drug users. It's strange, but it happens sometimes. And the discourse around this by the libtards is 100% wrong. And the amount of projection that is involved in this conversation, in terms of one, projecting themselves and their thinking patterns on the street people, and two, what they project onto us, the people who are like, this is unacceptable, is insane. But that's like their whole narrative is based on these forms of projection, based on inaccurate theories of mind for everybody.
And so you're completely correct there. And I think that this is a good bit of projection from the left towards the right. Because obviously, Karl, you and I are quite far to the right, but have a certain amount of just Christian sympathy for
exactly
these homeless unfortunates. But the idea that, in a kind of like civic sense, the love that charity is simply letting someone do exactly what they want, it is completely and totally untrue. Right? The idea that, oh, well, they want to do this, so we should facilitate it and not restrict them, it is not true at all. Obviously, these people live horrible, immiserated lives, and it would be better for them and also for the people around them if they were not able to do that.
Yes, exactly.
It's really not that complicated. This is something we understood throughout history. That you can't simply let someone do whatever they want, because otherwise they would feel upset.
And that's what monasteries were partially, and nunneries. Like, there was a certain amount of it where that was dealing with people who are semi-functional but have mental illnesses, for example, and it's a charitable work to take care of them, and it also makes them not a problem for everyone else. And so what happens is, an awful lot of the older people that you see out there who are more on the innocent side, we could say, they're mentally disabled and their parents passed away, and so there's nobody to take care of them, and so they're on the street, and they are incapable of making decisions for themselves or doing day-to-day things. They can do very basic things if they're being wrangled constantly, but if you make it about personal choice, they're screwed because they don't understand consequences.
No, certainly, clearly. And you see this if you've ever been to kind of a blighted urban center, right? You'll see someone who either due to drugs or just kind of, genetic issues, effectively is incapable of even communicating. Like they're
Yes.
effectively just a husk. And the idea that the morally superior thing is to let that person slowly kill themselves, I disagree, to be perfectly honest. Uh, Carrying on with Pritchard's comments, the only sympathy anyone has for mental illness, neurological defects, etc., is to the extent they go, quote, "Wow, you had to try so much harder than me, the average person, to perform in a way that's still acceptable to me. That's very noble of you." Look, like the framing here isn't just, I find it, irritating or unsettling to be around someone with severe Tourette's. I think that, most adults understand that that can be disruptive, but it's something you sort of have to bear, right? They can't really help it. But extending that to, all of the indigent, right, these kind of transients is completely and totally not true. Like I can think of, several portions of DC where, and to be fair, I haven't been here since they, sent in the National Guard, but where you simply couldn't go.
Yeah.
It was not safe to go as, a young, relatively fit man, let alone if you have, a woman with you or if you have children with you. This is not simply, kind of personal judgment. This is not simply being like, oh, I don't like stinky, gross people, although that is true. That is secondary to a very real security risk. I mean, look, Karl, you and I have hung out in Portland before, and you'll be aware that there are quite a lot of storefronts that are completely smashed out
Yes.
just from time to time. And so, okay, that isn't just, oh, I think this is gross or unsightly. It's, well, you can't live like you would in a normal city if there are crazy people either pulling knives on you, lighting up, dying on the sidewalk, which is something I've seen before,
Yes.
just someone expire on my front steps. Like the idea that this is simply kind of, judgmental care and behavior is completely and totally absurd. Setting aside the issue of what's in these people's best interest, there is a very real negative externality, as the economists would say, to this type of behavior.
Extreme. And it destroys cities. The a tiny number of bad actors or completely irresponsible actors cause catastrophic consequences for everyone else. And to be honest, it's interesting that we haven't seen like neighborhoods burn down over this stuff, because you see the encampment fire all the time in areas where they're allowed to build these little settlements.
Well, I mean, Karl, to that point, like there is a bridge crossing the river, right? The main way you get in and out of one half of my town,
Yeah.
that has been irreparably harmed. They're in the process of restoring it over the really most of a decade because some guy was living underneath it and his little hovel caught on fire and
Yeah.
melted a hole in the bridge.
Yes.
Right? Like having a multiple ways to exit and enter your city is far from simply the kind of like country club, stuck up prejudices of like quote unquote privileged white women. It's a pretty basic part of living in a place, setting aside, anything else.
Something very important to share. We have confirmation that Stephen Miller eats bacon.
Oh,
Pork
see, that's
bacon.
funny because I was listening to the Holy Post, which you should not listen to. It's very bad. It's sort of the bastion of very respectable regime evangelicalism. David French is a returning guest. Phil Vischer of Veggie Tales and Being a Terrible Libtard fame.
It sounds awful.
Well, I was listening to this one. My wife showed it to me. It was, to be fair, quite entertaining. But they made the argument that Stephen Miller was a Christian nationalist. And, I, of course, with my well-developed senses, was like, see, I've caught you. He's not. He is an observant Jew. I might have been wrong. So, apparently he eats bacon, so that's at least something. I don't pretend to know really anything else about him, but I did think that was funny.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I must admit, I was trying to scroll to get to the thread that that you were talking about, just seized on that.
Breaking news, folks. Breaking
Breaking
news.
news. Breaking news.
Which, by
But
the way, I'm
yeah,
kind of constantly laughing at the thought of any time like, the administration is involved in one of these riots. Just imagine Stephen Miller, like worm tongue, just over Donald's shoulder, just saying like, yeah, "Donald, machine gun them. Let me take out 14,000 protesters."
you
You
know,
know it would be funny.
this reminds me of my opinion on how we need to deal with the homeless issue, which is that you have a convoy of vehicles of various types with various types of professionals in this convoy. You have the Helpy Helperton Brigade, who take the people off the street, by going to these encampments, and they very nicely, they check them out, and they have the medical people, and what you're doing is you're triaging these people. You're determining, is this person on drugs right now or recovering from, getting completely obliterated, and what do we need to do in terms of their immediate physical health, like what do we need to do to take care of this person, and then what bucket do they go into, because they're not all criminals. Some of them are people, if you want to see the reality of who you're dealing with, there are people who get themselves put in jail for the winter so that they're not out in the elements, who are with it enough to do that. And then they're generally not criminal, right? But then there's also hardcore criminals that live among the homeless because they are enabled to a great degree, getting free shit all the time, and being able to move and flow through these circles. If you ever read any of the stories of the tramps from the early 20th century and the hobo encampments, there would be like psychotic, like rapists and murderers, like gay rapists and whatever, it floating amongst these people. And so you have to be aware of who these are. So you look them up, you do your biometrics, you find out who these people are, and then you triage them to figure out where they go. And then the ones who resist, you machine gun them and then use flamethrowers on the whole site, because if they're irredeemable, you just have to get rid of them. And so what this allows you to do is to say, these are people who are mentally ill and can't take care of themselves, or they're mentally disabled and can't take care of themselves. And here's people who can clean up, and we can find something to do with them that's socially useful. And then you have calm places that have security, and you can give them things to do. And some people will give names to these kinds of places, and you could call it a type of camp if you want to. I don't really care. But what we need to do is we need to stop having lunatics like taking drugs and attacking people and just making life horrible, because it's always very few people that are doing this. And it creates these conditions that just compound the awfulness for everybody. And it also enables people who are on the borderline, who should be, scared straight, to have a visual example of what happens if they step over the line. Like, that's all criminal justice has ever been, which is like, normal people need to be able to do normal people things. We will punish people who do certain things, but we will also deter future crimes by making an example of them. And who cares if it's 5% of the population? That's how you come up with a really nice place like England, is through hundreds of years, you just brutally repress people who insist upon being a problem.
Just like to say, the opinions expressed by Karl Dahl are simply one of a guest on this show, and not necessarily us at the Jay
That is
Burton
true.
Show.
Do you want to hear
I do agree.
Do you want to hear the West Texas cowboy song that I wrote this
I
morning?
think we're good. I'll put it this way. I got a strike not too long ago,
Yeah.
and I've just now made it to the point where YouTube is paying me something.
Yeah.
So I like to keep it on for a little bit.
And another
With
venue. And another venue.
Yeah, yeah. So returning to this thread, because there's actually some pretty interesting insights I think she's actually not entirely wrong on. But if you don't perform in a way acceptable to others, sympathy for neurological/mental illness evaporates instantly. To the extent leftists excuse schizophrenic murderers, but not schizophrenic bigots, it is because only the latter is felt as a social problem we get mad about. I think she's entirely correct
That's
about that.
perfectly accurate.
Yeah, I like honestly some stunning self-awareness there. We'll see how long it lasts, but I mean this is exactly what you saw with the Zarutska situation, right? Where again, there is at least tacit support for a schizophrenic knife murderer, right? I mean, there are dozens of other cases as well.
They also love like industrial slaughter of Ukrainians, the libtards.
Yes, very much so. Here's another kind of point of interesting commentary. Like on the left, she's including herself in this, fundamentally don't care about crime. It is morally uninteresting to us. It's just a thing that happens in the world, like the weather. So we are willing to excuse mentally unwell, is what she said, meant to say rather, unwell people for theft, violence, etc. Again, I think she's actually completely correct about this. Crime is not an issue that the left cares about, at least the radical left. And when they do, it is effectively a proxy for punishing their enemies. Right? So for instance, in my home state, they've brought out a new law which says, people under 21 cannot buy or carry a gun unless they are accompanied by an adult legally defined as someone over 18. And look, why is that there? Is that there to actually solve a problem, or is it there to harass people they don't like? We understand, right? This will not actually solve any crime, because even if you can get two guys to surreptitiously carry guns for illegal purposes, well, that law would not be violated as long as both of them are over 18, or even if they're still under 21. Ridiculous. But I think her broader point about simply not caring about crime is plainly and clearly true.
Oh yeah, they've always been that way too. If you're talking about the modern progressive era, if you're talking about probably 1940, it's actually the post World War II frame, which is that like black crime is wonderful because they're murdering whitey, regardless of who is saying it on the libtard side. But whereas before, progressives were, like, we want society to be better, and we want to see improvements, so these are ways we can do it. So even eugenics, for example, the argument was generally about like how severe would you be in terms of applying eugenics to these people. So it's quite fascinating, but it is distinctly I mean, there's exceptions, like if you want to talk about communists, for example, and there were absolutely communists, pre-World War II, of course, but in terms of the degree to which they were promoted or mainstreamed. And so now, yeah, they don't care about crime at all. It's completely mainstream.
Here's where we see that solid analysis start to fall away. Conversely, the right will excuse mentally ill bigots because they don't care about bigotry, but a mentally ill person who pees on the subway should be locked away forever in their framework. Now, I understand that it's not entirely sure what she's referring to. Is she referring to, Kanye West and this guy with Tourette's at the BAFTAs? Do I care about that? Not in the slightest. They're famous people, right? It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if there's a schizophrenic white guy yelling racial slurs on the subway, I still do care about that. I'm not necessarily, morally offended by the specific words, but it's causing a problem I don't want to be around.
Yeah. Like, public nuisances are unacceptable, and I think they should be punished severely.
Right. And so again, I think this is the classic symptom of the left-wing inability to understand the morality of their opponents. Like, look, like I might find, just because of its shocking nature, a homeless guy saying something, or a transient, yelling something unexpected. That may be funny, like in a flash, but that's still a problem, right? I still don't want to live in such a place where things happen. This is a complete and total projection in my mind.
Yeah, it's like I don't I don't want other people to be bothered either. I think it's unacceptable for other people to be bothered, but to be a good libtard, you have to be like, oh, it's okay that that guy is shooting up and dying on the the subway or the public transit and bothering all these people. Like, aren't you tough? Like, why are you such a snowflake, conservatard? It's absolutely hysterical. But all it is really is it's a cope that they've trained themselves with by not caring about other people at all or the quality of life of anybody. You instantly are a good person because that means that you don't care about like black criminals or whatever. And so to have this severe opinion about like a word that these same people use like it's their last name, you know, it coming out of the mouth of someone else shows how false the whole thing is. And they use terms like moral panic, quite broadly, and it's to basically say I'm one of the good ones, even though they are in a moral panic about stuff that literally doesn't hurt anybody or cause actual problems, because someone privately stated something or an opinion that they don't like. So it's okay for them to call you a Nazi so that they can kill you or get you killed by some lunatic for having a political opinion. But if Don Quavius or Chuck the lunatic is attacking an old lady in the city and killing her or raping her, like it's very low class to have an opinion and to think that shouldn't happen.
Well, I mean, and that's exactly what you see here. The rest of this is not like particularly interesting. It's kind of more like left wing waffling. But Carl, if you had to guess what the last section of this, the last post in the thread, reveals, what's your guess?
I saw like a handful of posts about it. I didn't get all the way through it. My guess is that it would be something like, I'm really smart. I'm smarter than a lot of libtards, but I'm especially smarter than the chuds, and I don't really care, and I'm above it all, but also chuds are bad.
Good guess. And in some of the sections I skipped over, it was that, which isn't that interesting.
Okay.
So this is the last post in the thread.
Can't wait.
So I find it very annoying. But the same way I forgave the man who stabbed me and tried to kill me while psychotic, I have forgiven the people who can't forgive them or anyone like him. So anyway, it's literally the bicycle meme, right?
Okay.
Well,
that's giving me ideas, very based ideas.
Well, imagine how much he enjoyed stabbing her, right?
That's
like
true.
Who are we to say that was
in fact, I can sympathize.
Yeah, I mean, there's another section which is what drew me attention to it, that it has since been deleted, rather, where she effectively is talking about how, this was all made in response to some woman talking about how after she had children, her views on this changed. And so the thread originally started, before it was edited, with going back over this is why we need to abolish the nuclear family.
Yes.
Because, this does create quote unquote fascism in some women. And so we have to abolish it. Again, absolute lunacy.
They frequently refer to it as the white woman problem, where they're like, yes, you were a libtard and then you had children and now you care about society. Like, why are you such a fascist?
Well, honestly, man, I think that that's basically what politics has come down to
Yes.
is a very simple question of do we have a society or not? And do we want it to continue? And so you've seen some very odd bedfellows, right? Of people basically saying, like, oh, well, I would like to have a society. For instance, I don't know if you caught Karl, and this carries on to our long term project of following left wing uh, left wing violence. Did
Yes.
you see this kid who got stomped out by Antifa in France?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me get his name up, which is it's incredibly funny. Yeah, Quentin is his name. He was running security for a Swiss feminist group of all things, and as you can imagine, these women were disagreeing with the importation of people who have a very different view of women from the predominant right wing or the predominant Western one, rather. And Antifa, right? These kind of psychos and losers. I mean, they just stomped him to death. I think it was
Because
30
Antifa is opposed to the perpetuation of society.
Exactly. And so in that situation, you have this sort of odd mix of kind of French nationalists, right? A lot of them involved in kind of the will to rise stuff, with Swiss feminists against sort of new Frenchmen, and also like the Antifa types. There have been more kind of entrances to this weird war of will we have a civilization or not? I think of figures like Flesh Simulator, right? A popular YouTuber who's self-described as kind of a like a schizo lefty libertarian, and he's basically rapidly approaching the dissident right event horizon because of both his opinions that civilization should exist and also his interactions with people who disagree with him. I was listening. It's actually quite a funny podcast. Just while I was doing some chores earlier today, where he was speaking about mail theft, right? And it's somewhat hyperbolic, right? He basically talks about how mail theft should be published by public execution, right? The kind of things that the Japanese were getting up to in that one research. Karl, you can't send me that live. Sorry. Yeah, horrible podcasting, but very funny. And had embroiled himself in a massive fight with these anarchist types.
Yeah.
Because it's this kind of generalized critique, right? I don't like XYZ fact, so therefore burn civilization to the ground. And look, Karl, you or I are not conservatives, right? We are not these kind of Burkean types. We understand that there is a need for dramatic change. But that is within the sort of shared premise of thinking civilization should exist.
Yes.
Right? Of realizing that, institutions like the post office, which is, not the kind of coolest thing in the world, but that is a civilized system, right? The idea that you can, drop a package in the mail and, days, if not weeks later, someone will get that package without it being disturbed or stolen, right? Now, obviously, as things continue to get worse, these kind of high trust systems are crumbling, right? That's sort of a fact of it. But point is, right, again, you have someone who is a, kind of schizo lefty conspiracy theorist, sort of linking up in arms with our guys and Swiss feminists and many others, right? And look, like, I'm not saying I agree with him on everything or I would like to live in his version of the country, but to say that really is fundamentally the question in hand. Do we have a civilization or not? And somewhat secondarily, now 50 minutes into this podcast, what is the point of that civilization? As of yet, we have not started a fight with Iran, but it seems as if it is in the offing. Sidebar issue, I don't know if you guys have been following. I think it's the USS Gerald Ford has had disastrous plumbing issues. That's kind of funny. But nonetheless, right, at roughly the same time this is building up, Tucker Carlson had an interview with Mike Huckabee. And I won't play it because it contains copyrighted music. But if you're wondering, a second Mike Huckabee classic rock cover has hit the timeline. He did it again. Similar kind of quote unquote parody of a song you know and love. But point is, he interacted with Tucker Carlson in what was an astonishingly poor showing from my perspective. Uh, I was just shocked how unable Huckabee was to answer even very, very basic questions. Like, oh, well, if Israel has a right to exist, why? Just freaking out. Okay, well, let's accept that Israel has a right to exist. Why doesn't Ireland? And Huckabee, in each case, absolutely lost it. Seems, according to Tucker and a few others, his producers were sort of accosted by security as he left. Go figure. At least some sources were indicating that the U.S. State Department had to call and sort of get him out of that. But again, right, is the entire purpose of American civilization to guarantee a future for a Middle Eastern democracy. At least Mike Huckabee would lead you to think so. As part of the other tied to the title, White Boy Winner, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about hockey really at all, but I think, like any red-blooded American, there was a tear in my eye when we absolutely demolished Canada in the Olympics. The aftermath was very funny. It sort of become a culture war issue because the women's hockey team also won. And of course, being, high-end women's sports, they're all lesbians who hate Donald Trump. So there's become this very artificial culture war, it's sort of struggle over which hockey team is America's hockey team. It's dumb, but also, you see a video of a bunch of corn-fed Midwestern boys at an Italian nightclub singing the national anthem. It brings a tear to your eye. Other developments in White Boy Winter, Sean Strickland of UFC middleweight fame demolished some Mexican guy, Fluffy Hernandez, I
He
believe.
deported him, yes.
Yeah, after some of the funniest trash talk I've ever seen. I'm not the biggest fan of Sean as a fighter for fairly obvious reasons, but he's really funny, and a lot of people were naysaying him, mostly for culture war reasons. I'll admit, I think he's funny. I get a little tired of his shtick just because it's like his mouth sells the tickets, his hands won't. But nonetheless, I thought that was funny, and so I guess we've extended it, right, to White Boy Winter, right? So yeah, that's the actual titled part of the stream. Now 50 minutes in, after a brief digression about the State of the Union and homelessness, I threw a bunch at you there, Karl. You're free to respond if you want to.
All I'll say is that in response to some of the comments in the chat, or I should say to yes and some of the comments in the chat, I am buying a custom revolver holster that is known as the Boomer. But yes,
of course you are.
In terms of honestly, current events, yes.
Man, I had this conversation with one of my good buddies where we realized that we're transforming into 1911 guys, and we're like, oh no, it's done. Like then the tall white socks come out, but once you have reached the revolver stage, you're done. You're cooked. There's no recovering.
That's okay.
You have entered the point of no return. You are 85 years old.
It's true, and I like it. So, so here's the thing: when you like niche cartridges like 44 Special, you can get really good loads for them, but it's really fun and easy to reload to a high standard of quality and wring many uses out of your cases, which is cheap, and which allows you to shoot a lot more at the same level of quality as anything else. And you really need it with niche revolver cartridges because you don't want to spend $50 for a box of 50 rounds. That gets old fast. So in terms of the kind of current events things, of course, everything is gay and retarded. I mean, that's just what I kind of expect. I wake up, I look at the internet, I go, ugh, and I close my curtains again and turn back to whatever. Yeah, it's pretty it can seem very bleak, but once you accept it, it just becomes kind of like the seasons. You just go, whatever. Does it come in 32? There is a 32 H&R Magnum iteration of this firearm that holds 7 rounds. I
I want to find this actually, Carl, because I'm not sure if I sent it to you.
yeah,
Do you remember the comment I got on Patreon about our last conversation?
something about 32.
Oh, yeah, well, there's that one too. But I
Yeah.
got a very funny comment where someone was basically saying, I don't know anything about guns. And so I was planning to just skip this episode. And I went to check the time and I realized I was 55 minutes in and you guys hadn't talked about guns once
Oh,
in a
that's all.
serious
Yeah,
capacity.
yeah. That's right.
I
Okay,
thought it was
that's
funny.
funny. That's funny.
This is very much a show about nothing.
Yes.
Uh, we're closing out the hour. We've got a few super chats. If you guys want to send them, I would certainly appreciate it. Before I do, let me drop the link to not the article I forgot to put out yesterday. Again, professional podcast, ladies and gentlemen, but my piece in Junto. I'm just gonna go ahead confidently with that pronunciation. So give me a second. I will drop that link. Check this out.
A very
Written
good
with
piece.
help. Thank you. Junto is it's a great publication. Did you check out their Intel tab, Carl?
Yes, I did. You mentioned it yesterday, and I found it very interesting and useful. A lot of good resources there.
Yes. They've basically done a uh, a number of different. Oh, and they're changing it already. So it's constantly being updated. But they have a very detailed network map. They have a funding map, and then they have sort of a talent network. So point is, if you're wondering where some random conservative policy wonk came from, who they're connected to, and how they get paid, well, that's how you do it. So point is, it's a very interesting map, both for those looking for context, right, on who someone is, but also, right, if you're looking to do a little bit of open source intelligence. Anyway, check that out. I don't think there's anything to do other than just look at it, right? There's no cost to it, so it's worth that. We have a few super chats. Obviously, y'all can send more if you want. The creatively named Chief Slingin' Beef, going on vacation to the Old Dominion this summer, haven't been back, but a one-day trip in 6 years. May keep a lawyer on retainer before I end up in your commie land. That's a good idea, Mr. Slingin' Beef. You should, because the laws are getting stupider and stupider. Uh, I'm not Grim from Red Hood said the USS Poopin' Fartin'. I think that is correct. The footage I've seen from it, it sort of looks like the Ganges. I saw some interesting coverage on it. Apparently, this is one of the ships that they tried to make fully gender neutral during the Biden years. So they ripped out all the plumbing and redid it. Who
Yeah.
knows if that's related? It's funny, so I've decided to think it's true. Y'all gonna be open carrying Rock Island 1911s, driving Jeeps with ducks on the dash, and watching Mark Levin for your opinions. Let it
Oh
flow
Lord.
through you. So I will say, Carl, as you're aware, I'm up for a meme gun. Right? I think it's funny.
Hmm.
My newest monstrosity, of course, is this totally legitimate Geisley 6-second mount in Comic Sans is the font that they've decided to put on it. Now, is it real? No. I paid $40 on eBay for it and put a also $40 red dot on it. I think it's funny. So I'm up for a little bit of nonsense. You can probably see my side-by-side shotgun that once I figure out how to use ATFE forms, I will be cutting down to as preposterously short as possible. Again, because it's funny. So that all said, Carl, there's a whole lot of Trump 45 and Trump
Yes.
46 commemorative edition guns for
Oh
sale for
Lord.
very, very cheap.
We
And
looked at
there's
a lot
something,
of them.
I know. And there's something really funny about a fake gold plated Donald Trump 45-46 commemorative presidential 1911.
That is so sick, dude. I think you need to do it.
I might. The problem is, I probably would have bought it, but as someone who has an impending legal deadline of July, I'm trying to look for things that I
Yeah.
will not be able to, and I'll be able to buy that forever
That
because
is
nobody
much
wants
like
it.
that is much like the article that I wrote for Junto that hopefully they accept.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which,
Which
yeah,
we sort of went over last time.
yes, yeah. But yes, you have to plan these things out, and there's certainly no point in acquiring anything that is a meme gun that doesn't tick one of the boxes.
Okay, so I see someone talking about the Taurus Judge. So I sort of love collecting bizarre, very small YouTube channels. Like we're talking with like 50 subscribers, mostly just because I think that they're funny. And I have found, let me go through and find it, the probably the best boomer channel in the world. Uh, Effectively, this guy, all he does is just turn on the camera, talk. His wife is next to him. He's got a Keltec. Uh, no, he's got a high point carbine behind him.
Mm.
Shoot, I can't find it. But he has the funniest opinions, both on guns and on politics. He is like a perfect distilled boomer. Oh, I'll be so upset if I can't find
Is
this.
that the
Point is,
guy?
I think I'm his only viewer.
Is that the guy who like talks about how you're insane if you carry with a round in the chamber that
He
you showed
probably
me?
thinks that. Actually, yeah, that is exactly who it is. Oh, come on,
That
I
is
can't find this
hilarious.
guy. Oh
That is
no,
hilarious. Is his wife
this is horrible.
Filipino? Someone asks.
Literally, yes, she actually is, which is what makes it funny because it's like I know it's real, but it's like what you or I, Carl, would do as like $1 million extreme skit. It
Oh
is quite possibly one of the funniest unintentional. You keep waffling. I'll find this
okay.
because I need to share this with you guys.
Yeah, what I don't understand about the no round in the chamber guys is like what that tells me is that they're new to carry. Like they didn't start carrying until it was legal in Texas. Which again, I remind everyone that was 1995. Like your Texas is so based like that. A lot of that is media hype. I'm sorry, Texans. I love you, but you know that it's true if you're over the age of 40, which makes you a boomer. Um, I wonder if that guy carries like a conventional modern revolver with an empty chamber under the firing pin. Like my get that's my guess is that his cylinder is loaded with 5 of 6.
Oh, I'm so mad I can't find this. So to that point, Carl, I had this moment. You and I were joking around in a group chat, uh, talking about the classic song "Genuine" by Pony. That song is 30 years old, and that is an
Yeah.
uncomfortably long amount of time.
Yes.
I
Yes.
really feel as if I am old. From that, Buck Mulligan, good to see you again, man. Buck and I used to talk when I still did Twitter lives while driving in the car. We had a very controversial discussion about, if I believe, I think this is you, man. You were at least on the phone before or afterwards, about the genetic results of chattel slavery. I'll leave it at that. Tyler Oliveira has been posting controversial videos for years, but for some reason the last one had his Patreon taken down. I can't understand why this one crossed the line. I get the sense, Buck, you're playing a little bit of a joke on this, because basically what he was doing was discussing, shall we say, aggressive moving habits of the Hasidim in New Jersey, particularly moving in and taking over small towns, and he has angered some in the
Someone.
international banking sector.
We couldn't
I'll leave it at
possibly
that.
know who.
It sort of brings to mind the old Norm Macdonald joke about Marlon Brando, right? Where it's Marlon, now that Marlon Brando has apologized for saying that Jews control Hollywood to a rabbi, he is now free to work in Hollywood again. I was on NBC, not my statement. Super Jack Hack 2, you know what to do with this. I don't, but I do appreciate it. I mean, I'm going to split it with Karl, so thank you. Oh, and Buck gave me 10 pounds, which, as an American, I don't fully understand exactly what that means. It seems like good money, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I really cannot find this guy. I have a bad habit of, both on Twitter and on this, subscribing to entirely too many people, mostly because there's just things I want to keep track of, and then my feed is completely and totally clogged up. So I
And
can't
you're
find that.
just like lots of left-wing lunatics, I've noticed.
And a lot of Zionists, which is not
Yes.
good for my blood pressure. And roughly daily, I have to
That's why
talk myself down.
I have to. That's the reason why in that particular group chat that you mentioned, the reason I'm like not cortisol maxing all the time about what, the doings that are transpiring is because I ignore those quote unquote people.
Well, see, it's actually very good at keeping me off the website. So I've just made it so toxic, I myself cannot bear it.
That's actually very sensible. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's a strategy.
Because I'm an internet addict and I need to do more like that.
Yeah, well, see, this is the kind of thought process behind it, right? Where it's like I have to understand that my self-control is lacking, so I just have to salt the water. It's like in the 30s when they just poisoned wood alcohol to keep people from drinking it. It's like, well, now I am, even by the standards of this hell site, completely and totally miserable. So there's something to it.
Goodness. Oh
What's
my
that?
goodness. Ooh. Beretta has released a 20 gauge A300 Ultima Patrol.
You are 95 years old.
A300 is a good gun. People will be like, it's no 1301. Yeah, I know, but it's a good solid gauge, and a 20 gauge semi-auto is handy for the wife, one could say, and for the kidlets, and for you, your split times in terms of like spraying a narrow hallway with buckshot are enhanced quite a bit. And last time I checked, like 9 number 1 buck pellets blowing a hole in a person is like almost no different than 9 double-aught, like in terms of their internal ballistic wise. So
yeah, I mean, after my extensive taste testing, I can confirm mouthfeel is almost
0.03 inches and like 2 grains. 3 grains, 5 grains. It's like it's almost nothing. It's crazy.
I'm not Grim from Red Hood again. Potomac sewage Gulf Maxer. Yeah, I mean, apparently the Potomac is just flooded with sewage, which seems to be happening more and more in certain cities. I'm sure you remember when, was it Jackson, Mississippi, that just didn't have water for like a year?
Yeah.
Flint. I guess you could even say New Orleans.
There's a trend
that inquisitive minds could plot out. I can't think of it. Michael, I can't read that. Michael DeRubio says boomers are over 60, not over 40. Gen X is always left out. In the spirit of that, I am simply not going to address the Gen X part of it because I'm leaving them out. But boomer is a state of mind. It is a literal description, but also it's a metaphysical marker. So in much the same way that, Joe Bidenopoulos once said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. If you don't have tall white socks, a disdain for your own children, and a unabiding love for an 80s series, 1911, you're not a boomer, regardless of how old you are. That's the kind of hard-hitting opinions you get here, Karl. So I am, as you can probably tell, my voice is starting to give out. I've been recording a lot. But Karl, if people are interested in finding you, where can they do so?
Best place is karldahl.substack.com.